Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, staring at the screen that showed nothing but stars. His ship had been traveling through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds and signs of life. The crew was getting tired, but Jake knew they had to keep going. "Captain," said Kate Phillips from her seat at the communication station, "I'm getting something strange on the radio." Jake walked over to her. "What kind of strange?" "It's not coming from Earth or any of our other ships. The signal is very clear and strong. Someone is trying to talk to us." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After all these years of looking for other life in space, had they finally found it? "Put it on the main screen," he said. The screen flickered and changed. Instead of stars, they now saw a tall figure that looked like it was made of clear crystal. The being had 4 arms and strange patterns of light moving across its body. Its voice was deep and calm. "Greetings, humans of the ship New Horizon. I am Ambassador Kefvar of the Zephyrian people. We have been watching your species for some time." Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's main scientist, stepped forward. "This is incredible. We're actually talking to an alien." The alien continued speaking. "Your people show promise. You explore space with curiosity and courage. This is why we have chosen to contact you." Jake found his voice. "Chosen us for what?" "Every few hundred years, we hold a great contest. We invite young species to compete and show their worth. The winners join the Galactic Commonwealth, a group of advanced civilizations that work together across the stars." Ben Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, looked worried. "What kind of contest?" "You will face challenges that test your mind, your skills, and your ability to solve problems. Other species will compete alongside you. If you succeed, your people will gain access to technology and knowledge beyond your current understanding." Lisa stepped closer to the screen. "What happens if we fail?" "Nothing bad will happen to you. You will simply return home and continue as before. But you will not get another chance for many generations." Jake looked around at his crew. He could see the excitement in their eyes, but also fear. This was the biggest decision any human had ever faced. "How many of us would participate?" Jake asked. "Your entire crew of 12 will compete together. The contest takes place on one of our space stations. You will be transported there safely." Kate spoke up. "How do we know we can trust you?" The alien's light patterns shifted to what might have been a smile. "You do not know. This is part of the test. Young species must learn to take calculated risks." Jake thought about everything they had learned in space. Humanity had always been brave enough to explore the unknown. They had left Earth to find new worlds and new life. Now they had found it. "What are the other species like?" Lisa asked. "The hive minds work together as one consciousness. The ethereals are beings of pure energy. The constructs are mechanical life forms. Each species has unique strengths." Ben frowned. "And what are humanity's strengths?" "That is for you to discover during the contest." Jake made his decision. "We accept your invitation." The alien's lights grew brighter. "Excellent. Prepare your crew. You will be transported to the contest station in 1 hour." The screen went dark, leaving the crew in stunned silence. "Captain," said Amy Green, the ship's pilot, "are we really doing this?" "We came out here to explore and learn," Jake replied. "This is the greatest opportunity in human history." Dr. Paul Wright, the ship's biologist, shook his head. "We don't know anything about these aliens. They could be lying." "They could be," Jake agreed. "But what if they're telling the truth? What if we can really join a galactic community?" Lisa nodded. The chance to learn from advanced alien civilizations would advance human science by thousands of years. The crew spent the next hour preparing. They packed their most important equipment and tried to guess what challenges they might Face. Jake sent a message back to Earth, explaining what had happened and their decision to compete. Exactly 1 hour later, the ship began to shake. A bright light filled the bridge, and Jake felt a strange tingling sensation all over his body. The stars outside disappeared, replaced by the metal walls of a huge space station. "Welcome to Contest Station Alpha," came the voice of Ambassador Kethvar. "Please exit your ship and join the other competitors." Jake led his crew through the airlock and into the station. The corridor was huge, with a ceiling so high he could barely see it. The walls were covered in strange symbols that seemed to move and change. They walked into a massive chamber where the other competing species waited. Jake had never imagined such creatures could exist. The hive minds looked like giant insects, but moved with perfect coordination. The ethereals appeared as swirling clouds of colored gas. The constructs were clearly machines, but they moved and acted like living beings. Ambassador Kethvar appeared before them, his crystal body towering over the humans. "Now that all competitors have arrived, we will explain the rules." Jake felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Whatever happened next would change humanity forever. "The contest has 3 phases," the alien continued. "But first, you must understand the most important rule." The chamber fell silent as every creature waited to hear what came next. All technology, tools, and equipment must be surrendered. You will compete using only your knowledge, your hands, and the basic materials we provide. Jake felt his stomach drop. Without their tools and computers, how could they possibly compete against species that had evolved for millions of years? But as he looked at his crew, he saw determination in their eyes. Humans had always found ways to survive and succeed, even when everything seemed impossible. The contest was about to begin. The human crew stood in shock as alien workers took away their equipment. Jake watched his communication device disappear into a container. Lisa saw her scientific instruments being carried off. Ben felt lost without his engineering tools. "This is everything we know how to use," whispered Amy. "How can we compete without our technology?" Ambassador Kethvar led them to a large, empty room with white walls and a high ceiling. In the center sat piles of basic materials, metals, wires, chemicals, and simple components that looked like they came from a junkyard. "Each team gets the same materials," the alien explained. "The first challenge begins now. You must create a device that can generate and transmit a specific electromagnetic frequency. You have 72 hours. Jake looked at the other teams. The hive minds were already working together, their insect-like bodies moving in perfect harmony. Hundreds of them surrounded their materials, organizing everything with incredible speed. The constructs moved with mechanical precision. They seemed to understand the materials just by touching them. Their metal bodies clicked and whirred as they began sorting and planning. The ethereals floated above their materials, their gas-like forms swirling with different colors. They appeared to be analyzing everything without even touching it. "We're in trouble," Ben said quietly. Lisa took charge. "No, we're not. We just need to think differently." She gathered the human team in a circle. "What do we know about electromagnetic frequencies?" "Radio waves," said Kate. "That's how we communicate across space." "Exactly. And how do we make radio waves?" Paul raised his hand. "We need electricity and some kind of antenna system." "Right. And humans have been making radio waves for over 100 years. We don't need fancy technology. We need to remember how it was done in the beginning." Ben looked at the materials. "I can make simple tools. Give me some time to work with these metal pieces." "Good," Lisa said. "Amy, help Ben organize our workspace." "Kate, you know communications better than anyone. What's the simplest way to generate a radio signal?" Kate thought for a moment. "A spark gap transmitter. It's old technology, but it works." We just need to create electrical sparks at the right frequency. Perfect. Paul, help me figure out what chemicals we have and how to make a battery. The team split up and began working. Ben started hammering metal pieces together, creating basic tools. He made a simple hammer from a heavy piece of metal and a handle. Then he shaped a piece of metal into a crude knife for cutting. Amy organized their workspace, separating materials by type. She created clean areas for delicate work and marked spaces for different projects. Lisa and Paul experimented with the chemicals. They mixed different substances and tested them with simple strips of metal. After many tries, they found a combination that created electricity when connected properly. We have a battery, Lisa announced after 6 hours of work. Kate had been studying the wire-like materials. I think I can make coils with these. If we wrap them correctly, we can create the electromagnetic fields we need. The first day passed quickly. The other teams seemed to be making faster progress. The hive minds had already built something that looked complex and finished. The constructs were putting together intricate mechanical parts. The ethereals had created a beautiful pattern of energy that pulsed with different colors. Are we falling behind? Amy asked. Maybe, Jake admitted. But we're learning. Each problem we solve teaches us something new. On the second day, things started coming together. Ben had created better tools and even built a simple measuring device. The team could now work more precisely. Lisa and Paul had improved their battery design. They now had a steady source of electricity that could power their device. Kate had successfully created coils of wire that could generate electromagnetic fields. When she connected them to the battery, they produced a weak but detectable signal. It's working, she said excitedly. We're actually generating radio waves. But they still needed to fine-tune the frequency. The Zephyrians had given them a specific number to match, and they had to be exact. How do we measure the frequency without instruments? Paul asked. Lisa smiled. The same way humans did it 100 years ago. We build our own measuring tools. The team spent the rest of the second day creating simple devices to measure and adjust their transmission frequency. They used the basic principles of physics that every human engineer and scientist learned in school. By the third day, they had a working spark gap transmitter. It was ugly and crude compared to modern technology, but it generated exactly the frequency they needed. Time is up, announced Ambassador Kethvar. The team stepped back from their creations. The hive minds had built something that looked like a work of art with perfect curves and intricate details. The constructs had created a device that hummed with mechanical precision. The ethereals had formed a complex pattern of energy that seemed to dance in the air. The human device looked like a mess of wires and metal pieces held together with improvised brackets. But when Kate activated it, it produced a clear, strong signal at exactly the right frequency. All teams have succeeded, the alien announced. However, the judging considers not just success, but method. Jake held his breath. The hive minds worked with perfect coordination. The constructs showed mechanical excellence. The ethereals demonstrated energy mastery. But the humans did something unexpected. The alien paused, his light patterns shifting. The humans taught each other. Each team member learned skills from the others. They built not just a device, but knowledge. This is unusual. Lisa stepped forward. Is that good or bad? It is interesting. Most species either know things instinctively or learn them once and never change. Humans seem to constantly share and build upon knowledge. Ben wiped sweat from his forehead. We had to. None of us knew everything we needed. We had to work together. Yes, the alien said. You solved the problem by becoming better than you were before. This is not common among the species we have observed. Jake felt a moment of hope. Maybe humans had a chance after all. The first challenge is complete, Ambassador Cathvar announced. Rest and prepare. The second challenge will test you in ways you cannot imagine. As the team settled into their assigned rest area, Lisa gathered them together. We learned something important today, she said. We don't have to be the strongest or the smartest. We just have to be willing to learn and adapt. And work together. Ben added. The other species seem to rely on their natural abilities, Amy observed. But we rely on each other. Jake nodded. That might be our greatest strength. We'll find out tomorrow. The humans settled down to rest, but they were already planning and discussing the next challenge. Even in their sleep, they were still learning and growing. Outside their quarters, Ambassador Cathvar watched them through a viewing panel. In all his years of conducting these contests, he had never seen a species quite like these humans. They were weak individually, but together they seemed capable of anything. The real test was yet to come. The second day of the contest began with a new challenge that made Jake's heart sink. Ambassador Cathvar stood before all the competing teams in the main chamber. Your next task is more complex, the alien announced. You must create a complete life support system that can keep your species alive for 1 full week. This system must provide clean air, pure water, food, and waste removal. Jake looked at his crew. This was much harder than making a radio transmitter. They needed to understand biology, chemistry, and engineering all at the same time. The other teams immediately began working. The hive mind split into groups, each handling a different part of the system. The constructs started building mechanical components with incredible speed. The ethereals began creating energy patterns that seemed to purify the air around them. This is impossible, Ben said. We barely managed the first challenge. No, Lisa said firmly. We can do this. We just need to think about what humans need to survive. She gathered the team together. What does a human need to live for a week? Air to breathe, said Amy. Clean water to drink, added Kate. Food to eat, said Paul. And we need to get rid of waste, finished Ben. Right, Lisa nodded. Now, how do we provide these things using only basic materials? Paul stepped forward. I know biology. On Earth, plants make oxygen and clean the air. Maybe we can grow something here. Good idea, Lisa said. What about water? We can clean dirty water by boiling it and catching the steam, suggested Ben. That's called distillation. And filtration, added Kate. We can make filters to remove dirt and chemicals. Amy had been looking at the materials. We have seeds and nutrients here. We can probably grow simple plants for food and oxygen. The team began working with new confidence. They had learned from the first challenge that they could solve problems by breaking them into smaller parts. Ben started building tools again, but this time he made them more carefully. He created a small furnace that could heat water and metal. He built pipes from metal tubes and made connections that wouldn't leak. Paul examined the seeds and nutrients they had been given. He found fast-growing plants that could produce oxygen quickly. He also found algae that could clean water and provide protein for food. These algae are perfect, he explained to the others. They eat waste and produce oxygen. They're like a natural recycling system. Lisa worked on the chemistry. She figured out how to make filters using sand, charcoal, and cloth. She also learned how to use chemicals to kill germs in water. Amy organized everything into a system. She drew plans showing how water would flow from one cleaning stage to another. She figured out how to make waste from one process become food for another process. Kate built monitoring systems using simple electrical circuits. These would tell them if the air was safe to breathe and if the water was clean enough to drink. The first day of this challenge was hard. The humans made many mistakes. Their first air filter didn't work properly. Their water purification system leaked. Their plants wouldn't grow in the conditions they created. But each mistake taught them something new. When the air filter failed, they learned how to make it stronger. When the water system leaked, they learned how to make better connections. When the plants died, they learned what conditions they needed to survive. The other teams seemed to be having their own problems. The hive minds built beautiful biological systems, but they couldn't make the mechanical parts work properly. The constructs created perfect machines, but they didn't understand how to work with living things. The ethereals could purify air and water with energy, but they struggled to create physical systems. "Look at that," Amy whispered, pointing to the construct team. "Their machines are amazing, but they can't figure out how to grow food. And the ethereals can clean water instantly," added Kate, "but they can't store it or move it around." Lisa nodded. "Each species is good at some things, but struggles with others. We're the only ones trying to understand everything." On the second day, the human system started working better. The plants were growing and producing oxygen. The water was getting cleaner as it moved through their filters. The waste was being broken down and recycled, but they still had problems. The system was too slow. It couldn't clean enough water or make enough oxygen for 12 people. "We need to make it bigger and faster," Ben said. "Or more efficient," suggested Lisa. Paul had an idea. "What if we use multiple systems working together? Instead of one big system, we could have several smaller ones." "That's brilliant," Amy said. "If one system breaks, the others can still work." They spent the day building multiple small systems instead of one large one. Each system handled a different part of the process. One system cleaned water. Another grew plants for oxygen. A third processed waste. A fourth grew food. Ben connected all the systems with pipes and pumps that he built by hand. The pumps were simple, but they worked reliably. By the third day, their life support system was working well. The air was clean and fresh. The water tasted pure. The plants were growing strong and producing both oxygen and food. "It's actually working," Jake said in amazement. "Better than working," Lisa replied. "It's getting better every day. We keep making small improvements." The week-long test began. Each team had to live using only their life support system. No help from the aliens. No backup systems. They had to trust their own work completely. The first day of the test was scary. What if something broke? What if they had made a mistake? But the human system worked perfectly. The air stayed clean. The water was safe to drink. The plants provided food and oxygen. The waste was processed and recycled. On the second day, the humans noticed that their system was actually getting more efficient. The plants were growing better. The water was getting cleaner. The whole system was learning and adapting. "Look at this," Paul said excitedly. "The algae are growing faster because they're getting better nutrients from our waste. The system is improving itself." By the fourth day, other teams were having problems. The hive mind system was working, but it wasn't adapting to changes. The construct system was precise but inflexible. The ethereal system was beautiful but unstable. The humans, meanwhile, kept making small adjustments. When they noticed the air was getting slightly stale in one area, they added another plant. When the water flow slowed down, they cleaned the filters. When waste built up, they adjusted the recycling process. "We're not just using our system," Amy observed. "We're constantly improving it." "That's what humans do," Jake said. "We build something, test it, and make it better." By the end of the week, the human life support system was working better than it had at the beginning. The other teams had systems that worked, but they hadn't improved. Some had even gotten worse. Ambassador Kethvar examined each team's results. The hive minds had created a functioning system through perfect coordination. The constructs had built a mechanically sound system. The ethereals had demonstrated energy mastery, but the human system was different. It was simple compared to the others, but it was also more adaptable and efficient. "Your system is crude," the alien told the humans, "but it learns and improves. This is unexpected. We built it to be flexible," Lisa explained. "We knew we would make mistakes, so we wanted to be able to fix them." "You expected to fail?" "We expected to learn," Jake corrected. "Failure is just another way to learn." The aliens' light patterns shifted, and what the humans had learned was curiosity. Most species try to create perfect systems from the beginning. You create imperfect systems that become perfect through use. "Nothing is perfect the first time," Ben said, "but everything can be improved." Ambassador Kethvar studied the humans for a long moment. "Your approach is very different from what we usually see. You embrace uncertainty and change." "That's how we survive," Amy said simply. The alien nodded slowly. "The second challenge is complete. Rest and prepare. The final challenge will determine if you are ready to join the galactic community." As the team rested, they felt confident. For the first time since the contest began, they had proven that humans could not only survive, but thrive by adapting and learning. "Whatever the next challenge is," Jake said, "we'll face it the same way, together and ready to learn." The humans settled down to rest, but they were already excited about what would come next. They had discovered something important about themselves and their species. They were not the strongest or the smartest, but they were the most adaptable. And in a universe full of unknowns, that might be the most valuable trait of all. A final challenge arrived with a surprise that none of the teams expected. Ambassador Kethvar gathered all the competitors in the main chamber, but this time his light patterns seemed different, almost excited. For the final challenge, he announced, "You must create something that shows the greatest achievement of your species. You may use any of the materials provided, but you must demonstrate what makes your people special." Jake felt his stomach tighten. This was completely open-ended. How could they compete against species that had evolved for millions of years? The other teams immediately began working on impressive displays. The hive mind started building a complex network that seemed to pulse with shared thoughts. Hundreds of them worked together, creating something that looked like a living brain. Made of crystal and metal dot, the constructs began assembling the most complicated machine Jake had ever seen. It had thousands of moving parts, all fitting together with perfect precision. The machine seemed to be building copies of itself, each one more complex than the last. The ethereals created a spectacular light show. They formed patterns in the air that were so beautiful they took Jake's breath away. The patterns moved and changed, showing mathematical formulas and scientific principles through pure energy. "What do we do?" Ben asked quietly. "We can't compete." With that, the human team stood in a circle, looking at their pile of basic materials. Everything around them was being transformed into wonders of technology and art. "What is humanity's greatest achievement?" Lisa asked. "Space travel?" Suggested Amy. "Medicine?" offered Paul. "Computers?" said Kate. Jake shook his head. "Those are all good, but they're not what makes us special. Every species here has technology." "Then what?" Ben asked. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then her eyes lit up. "Teaching. We teach each other. That's what we've been doing this whole time." "Teaching?" Amy sounded confused. "Think about it," Lisa continued. "In the first challenge, we all learned new skills from each other. In the second challenge, we shared knowledge and built on each other's ideas. That's what humans do best." Jake nodded slowly. "She's right. We don't just learn things once and forget them. We pass knowledge from person to person, generation to generation. And we improve on what we learn," added Ben. "We don't just copy what someone else did. We make it better." Paul got excited. So we should create something that teaches? Not just teaches, Lisa said. Something that shows how humans learn and share knowledge. The team began working with new purpose. Instead of trying to build one impressive device, they started creating a collection of simple tools and books that could teach someone how to rebuild civilization from scratch. Ben made basic tools and wrote instructions for how to make them. He showed how to turn raw metal into hammers, knives, and other useful items. He explained the principles behind each tool and how to improve them. Lisa created books that explained the basic laws of science. She wrote about chemistry, physics, and biology in simple terms that anyone could understand. She included experiments that could be done with common materials. Paul documented how to grow food, purify water, and stay healthy. He explained how different plants and animals work together in nature. He showed how to create sustainable systems that could support a community. Amy wrote about organization and planning. She created guides for working together, sharing resources, and solving problems as a group. She showed how to make decisions and lead people fairly. Kate developed communication systems and ways to store information. She created simple codes and symbols that could be used to share knowledge across distances and time. But the most important part of their creation was how it all fit together. Each book and tool connected to the others. Someone could start with no knowledge at all and gradually learn everything they needed to know. It's like a complete education, Jake said as he watched his team work. Someone could use this to learn everything from basic survival to advanced science. That's the point, Lisa said. This is how humans have always survived. We don't just know things. We learn them, improve them, and teach them to others. The other teams were putting finishing touches on their impressive creations. The hive mind network was pulsing with complex thoughts. The construct machine was creating increasingly sophisticated copies of itself. The ethereal light show was displaying the mathematical structure of the universe. The human creation looked simple by comparison. It was just a collection of books, tools, and teaching materials. But it represented something much more important than any single achievement. Time is complete, Ambassador Cathvar announced. The team stepped back from their work. The alien judges moved from creation to creation, examining each one carefully. When they reached the hive mind network, they spent a long time studying its complexity. The network could process information faster than any computer and solve problems. Through pure collective thought, the construct machine amazed them with its precision and self-replication abilities. It was a perfect example of mechanical evolution, each generation better than the last. The ethereal display showed mastery over energy and matter that seemed almost magical. They had created beauty and knowledge from pure thought. Finally, the judges reached the human creation. They looked confused at first. Compared to the others, it seemed almost primitive. "What is this?" asked Ambassador Cathvar. "It's an education system," Lisa explained. "It teaches someone how to learn and build knowledge from the beginning. But it is so simple. The others have created wonders of technology and art." Jake stepped forward. "This is our greatest achievement. Not any single thing we've built, but our ability to learn and teach others." The alien picked up one of their books and studied it. "This explains how to make fire from basic materials." "That's just the beginning," Paul said. "If you follow the whole system, you can learn to build anything from fire to spacecraft." "But why start with something so basic?" "Because that's how learning works," Amy explained. "You start with simple things and build up to complex things. Each step teaches you something new." Ambassador Cathvar studied their creation for a long time. He read through their books and examined their tools. The other judges joined him, discussing what they saw in their own language. Finally, he turned back to the humans. You have created something we have never seen before. Is that good or bad? Ben asked nervously. It is remarkable. Most species either know things by instinct or learn them once and never change. But you have created a system for continuous learning and improvement. The aliens' light patterns shifted to what the humans had learned, meant deep thought. The hive minds demonstrated perfect coordination. The constructs showed mechanical mastery. The ethereals displayed energy control. But you have shown something more fundamental. What? Jake asked. You have shown how to grow. How to become more than you were before. How to pass that growth to others. Lisa felt her heart racing. Are you saying we won? I am saying that you have shown us something we had forgotten. We have been advanced for so long that we stopped learning. We stopped growing. We stopped teaching each other. The alien paused, his lights dimming slightly. We have been looking for new species to join our community. But perhaps we have been looking for the wrong thing. What do you mean? Kate asked. We have been looking for species that are already advanced. But advancement without growth leads to stagnation. We have become too set in our ways. Ambassador Cathvar's lights brightened again. You have reminded us that the ability to learn and change is more valuable than any single achievement. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. So we passed the test. You have done more than pass. You have taught us something we needed to learn. The alien gestured to all the creations around them. The others have shown us what they can do. You have shown us what we can become. The human team looked at each other in amazement. They had come to this contest expecting to learn from advanced aliens. Instead, they had ended up teaching them. What happens now? Amy asked. Now you return to your people with an invitation, not to join our community as students, but as teachers. We want to learn from you. Ben shook his head in disbelief. You want to learn from us? Yes. We want to remember how to grow and change. We want to learn how to teach each other again. Ambassador Cathvar looked at each of the humans in turn. Your species has something that we lost long ago. The courage to admit you don't know everything, and the wisdom to keep learning. Jake felt a surge of pride, not just for his team, but for all of humanity. We'd be honored to share what we know, and we will share our knowledge with you. Together, we can become something greater than either of us could be alone. As the contest ended, Jake realized that they had won something more valuable than advanced technology or star maps. They had discovered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in what they knew, but in their willingness to keep learning. The real victory wasn't in beating the other species. It was in showing that cooperation and continuous learning were more powerful than any single achievement. The journey home would begin soon, but Jake knew that this was really just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. The journey back to the New Horizon felt different from their arrival. Jake walked through the corridors of the alien station with Ambassador Cathvar beside him, but now they walked as equals, not as judge and contestant. Your species has given you much to think about, the alien said. His light patterns shifting, and what Jake had learned was contentment. We have been conducting these contests for thousands of years, but we have never encountered a species like humans. What made us different? Jake asked. Most species come to the contest trying to prove they are already worthy. You came ready to learn and grow. That is far more valuable. They entered the docking bay where the New Horizon waited. The ship looked small and primitive compared to the massive alien station, but Jake felt proud of it. Human hands had built it with human knowledge and human determination. The rest of the crew was already aboard, preparing for departure. They had spent the last day learning from the other alien species, sharing knowledge and experiences. Captain, Lisa called out as Jake entered the bridge. You need to see this. She led him to the communication station, where Kate was working with a device that looked like a combination of human and alien technology. The Zephyrians gave us this, Kate explained. It's a translator that will let us communicate with any species in the galaxy. But the amazing part is how it works. How? Jake asked. It doesn't just translate words. It translates concepts and ideas. It helps different species understand each other's way of thinking. Ben joined them, holding a small device that looked like a mix of tools and instruments. And they gave us this. It's not advanced technology, but it's something better. It's a teaching tool that helps us understand how things work. Paul was examining biological samples that the aliens had provided. They've shared genetic information from thousands of worlds. Not weapons or dangerous things, but knowledge about how life develops and adapts. Amy had been working with navigation data. They've given us star maps, but not just locations. They've included information about the cultures and histories of different worlds. It's like a guidebook for the entire galaxy. Jake felt overwhelmed by the generosity of the aliens. Why are they giving us all this? Ambassador Kethvar entered the bridge at that moment. Because you have given us something more valuable in return. You have reminded us of what we had forgotten. What's that? Lisa asked. The joy of discovery. The excitement of learning something new. We had become so advanced that we stopped questioning, stopped exploring, stopped growing. The alien moved to the main view screen, which showed the vast space station around them. For millions of years, we have accumulated knowledge and technology. We became masters of the universe, but we also became prisoners of our own success. I don't understand, Ben said. When you know everything, there is nothing left to discover. When you can do anything, there is no challenge left to overcome. We had reached the point where existence had become ... empty. Paul nodded slowly. You? We're looking for new species to give you purpose. Exactly. We hoped that by teaching younger species, we could remember what it felt like to learn and grow. But the species we found either tried to impress us with what they already knew, or they simply wanted us to give them our technology. Kate leaned forward. But we were different. Yes, you came not to show off or to take from us, but to understand and to share. You taught each other openly. You built on each other's knowledge. You turned every failure into a learning opportunity. Ambassador Kethvar's lights pulsed brighter. Most importantly, you showed us that the goal is not to reach the end of learning, but to keep the process of learning alive. Jake felt a deep responsibility settling on his shoulders. So what happens now? Do we become teachers for the whole galaxy? If you choose to. But first, you must return to your people and share what you have learned. Your species must decide together how to proceed. Lisa was already thinking ahead. We'll need to prepare Earth for contact with alien civilizations. This will change everything. Yes, the alien agreed. But change is what your species does best. You adapt and grow stronger. Amy checked the navigation systems. How long until we reach Earth? With the improvements we have made to your ship, the journey will take only 2 weeks instead of 3 months. Ambassador Kethvar replied, and looked surprised. What improvements? We have not given you new technology, but we have helped you understand your existing technology better. Your engines will run more efficiently. Your life support systems will work more reliably. You will arrive home safer and faster. The preparations for departure took several more hours. Representatives from each alien species came to say goodbye, and to exchange final gifts of knowledge, not the hive mind representative, speaking through a single individual, offered insights into collective problem solving. Your species thinks as individuals, but works as a group. This is a powerful combination. The construct delegation provided engineering principles that could help humans build more reliable machines. You create tools that adapt to new purposes. This flexibility is valuable. The ethereals shared their understanding of energy and matter. You transformed simple materials into complex solutions. This shows great creativity. As the New Horizon prepared to depart, Jake gathered his crew on the bridge. Are we ready for this? When we get back to Earth, everything will change. It's already changed, Lisa said. We've changed. We know now that humans have something special to offer the universe. And we know we're not alone, added Kate. There's an entire galaxy of civilizations out there waiting to meet us. Ben was practical as always. We have a lot of work to do. We need to prepare Earth for contact with aliens. We need to learn the new technologies we've been given. We need to decide how humanity wants to participate in galactic civilization. Paul was thinking about the bigger picture. We also need to stay true to what makes us human. Our willingness to learn, to adapt, to help each other grow. Amy was already plotting their course home, one step at a time. First, we get back to Earth safely. Then we change the world. The New Horizon detached from the alien station and began its journey toward Earth. As they traveled through space, the crew spent their time studying the gifts they had been given and planning for the future. Jake often found himself on the bridge, staring at the stars and thinking about what lay ahead. Humanity was about to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or followers, but as teachers and students. 3 days into the journey, Kate received a transmission from Earth, the message Jake had sent before the contest had reached home, and the response was exactly what he had expected. Captain Morrison, came the voice of Admiral Chun from Earth Command. Your message about alien contact has caused quite a stir. The entire world is waiting to hear what happened. Jake smiled as he prepared his response. Admiral, we have much to report. Humanity has been invited to join a galactic community, but not in the way we expected. We're not being asked to be students or followers. We're being asked to be teachers. The transmission delay meant he had to wait several minutes for a response. When it came, Admiral Chun's voice was filled with amazement. Teachers? What could we possibly teach aliens who are millions of years ahead of us? We can teach them how to keep learning, how to keep growing, and how to keep hope alive. It turns out that's the most valuable lesson in the universe. As the New Horizon continued its journey home, Jake knew that this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. They had gone into space looking for new worlds and new life. They had found something even better. They had discovered that humanity itself was exactly what the universe needed. The stars ahead looked different now. They weren't just distant suns in an empty void. They were homes to friends and teachers and students, all waiting to learn from each other and grow together. Jake smiled as he thought about the future. Humanity had always been explorers and learners. Now they had an entire galaxy to explore and learn from. And in return, they would share the one thing that made them special: the endless human capacity to adapt, to grow, and to help others do the same. The New Horizon flew on through the darkness, carrying its crew home with the most important message in human history. We are not alone, and we have something unique to offer the universe. The contest had ended, but humanity's real journey was just beginning.